Okay, let's dive right into this explainer by addressing that universal, quiet embarrassment we've literally all faced when meeting someone new. You know the exact scenario. You're at a networking event, maybe a party, or you just bump into a friend of a friend at a coffee shop. You shake hands, exchange some pleasantries, and then poof, the name is completely, utterly gone. Today, we're going to unpack exactly what is happening in your head when this happens and why it's actually a sign of your brain working exactly as it was designed to.
Think about the last time you were introduced to someone. It was probably just, 30 seconds ago in your memory? And I want you to ask yourself why their face, their outfit, and maybe even the exact joke they told sticks with absolute clarity, but the name completely vanishes from your mind like it never even existed. It feels like a glitch in the system, right? Everything else stays securely filed away, but the one piece of information you actually need to address them again has just evaporated? And then it leaves us trapped in this conversation, nodding and smiling like a hostage, frantically searching our memory for a name that simply isn't there anymore. But I promise you, if this is a chronic issue for you, you're not just being careless or self-absorbed or rude. There is something genuinely fascinating happening neurologically here that most people just never get explained to them.
Let's look at section 1, why brains hate names.
To really understand this, we need to look at how our brains categorize incoming data. Because to your neurological filing system, not all words are created equal. Take the word fire. When you learn what fire is, that word connects directly to a real, intense sensory experience. It links to heat, pain, danger, and survival. Your brain anchors it down. But consider the name Michael. Cognitively speaking, a name is completely arbitrary. The name Michael tells your brain absolutely nothing useful about the person standing in front of you. There's no inherent emotion attached, zero survival value, and no sensory connection. It's just a random label floating in isolation. Because your brain is ruthlessly efficient, it stores what connects to something else. Names connect to nothing, so they fall right through the cracks of your associative memory. Now, here is something that will genuinely surprise you. If you constantly forget names, it actually might mean you have an exceptional, highly associative brain. Your memory works through connection and meaning, not isolation. You remember how someone made you feel, their laugh, or a specific concept they shared because those things link to other things in your giant web of memory. But names? They're isolated islands with no bridge in and no bridge out. This is exactly why writers, creatives, and deep thinkers are disproportionately represented among chronic name forgetters. Your brain is built for narrative, not nomenclature.
Moving on to section 2, the interference, cognitive load and anxiety.
So the crucial point here is that a name doesn't arrive in a vacuum. It arrives during a chaotic storm of social processing. Even if you have a totally perfect memory in a quiet room, a social introduction is a totally different psychological environment. When someone walks up to you, consider the staggering cognitive load you are carrying in that split second. Your brain is simultaneously running a massive checklist. You're reading their facial expressions, you're interpreting their body language, you're subconsciously deciding if they're a safe person, you're processing the noise in the room, and on top of all of that, you're managing your own social performance. Somewhere buried inside all of that massive subconscious activity is a name, said exactly once, very quickly, with zero emotional weight. Your brain is simply too occupied to properly file it. Again, this isn't forgetfulness, it is ruthless prioritization.
And psychologists actually have a specific term for a major part of this social phenomenon. It's called the next in line effect. When you're about to meet someone or when you are preparing to introduce yourself, your brain naturally focuses so intensely on your own upcoming performance, thinking about what you're going to say, wondering if you look okay, managing your own anxiety, that it barely registers what is actually being said to you in that exact moment. You heard the name audibly, sure, but cognitively, you just weren't actually listening. Let's look at the actual math of memory for a second. Research on how our memory operates shows that it takes about 30 seconds of focused attention for new information to successfully transfer from your working memory into short-term storage. 30 seconds. That is the baseline requirement for your brain to do something useful with a new piece of data.
But realistically, during a rapid-fire social introduction, 3 seconds is about all the time you actually get before your attention is violently pulled away to something else in the conversation. A tiny fraction of your attention catches the name, and then boom, you're distracted.
And because your window of attention is so drastically cut short, going from that required 30 seconds down to a mere 3, memory consolidation completely fails. The new information never makes the jump from temporary holding into actual storage. The name literally evaporates before your brain can file it away. To make matters worse, we have to talk about the anxiety layer. The moment you realize you've forgotten the person's name mid-conversation,
This low-level panic activates in your nervous system. So now, your already limited cognitive resources are split between trying to maintain a normal conversation and launching a frantic internal search for a name you never properly stored in the first place. And the cruel irony? The harder you reach for that forgotten name, the further it retreats. It's kind of like the tip of the tongue phenomenon's highly anxious cousin. The name isn't necessarily gone entirety, it's just blocked because your own stress response is standing between you and the word you need.
We also can't ignore the biological dimension here, specifically dopamine. Dopamine is the chemical signal that essentially screams at your brain, hey, this information matters, store it properly. But an arbitrary name in a standard first meeting, it offers zero novelty, no reward, and no emotional charge. It just doesn't trigger that chemical release. This is exactly why memory champions at world competitions can memorize hundreds of names in just minutes. They aren't inherently smarter, they are artificially triggering dopamine by turning boring, arbitrary syllables into vivid, emotional, and narrative experiences inside their heads.
Which brings us perfectly to Section 3, building brain bridges. So how do we fix this? How do we take that isolated island of a name and connect it to the mainland of your associative memory? Well, you don't need to try harder to memorize. You just need to give your brain a bridge using 3 very actionable steps. First, repeat the name immediately out loud. It's great to meet you, Michael. Second, connect it to a vivid visual image or an emotion in your head. And third, create a tiny story around it. If you meet a guy named Baker, literally imagine him covered in flour holding a loaf of bread. Give that isolated label a bridge, and your associative brain will finally have something to grab onto the very second you hear the name.
But, what if you're already mid-conversation and the name has already evaporated? Honestly, drop the anxiety. Just ask them directly and warmly. Say something like, I am so sorry, my brain was so busy enjoying this conversation that I totally missed your name. Most people are absolutely not offended by this. In fact, most people standing there smiling have been exactly where you are and are probably running a total blank on your name too. Let's end on this profound thought, which is really the quiet truth underneath all of this. Forgetting a name doesn't mean you didn't care. It means your brain was simply too busy experiencing that person to properly file their label. So keep this in mind for your next party. Stop beating yourself up for having a brilliantly efficient, highly associative brain. If this explainer brought you some much-needed relief today and helped you understand your own mind a little better, I highly invite you to subscribe. We've got a lot more to cover, so let's keep making sense of our complex, fascinating brains together. So my final question to you is this. The next time you meet someone new, are you going to leave their name stranded on an island, or will you build a bridge?